Introducing to you first, boxing out of the blue corner and needing no introduction to boxing fans around the world. He wears the red, white, and blue trunks. His record, an amazing 70 victories against just 5 defeats. From Jasper, Alabama, the 4-round champion of the world, Butterbean! And his opponent boxing out of the red corner and wearing the black trunks of the red trim. He weighed in at 242 pounds even. His record, 28 victories against just 8 defeats. From Hackford, Ohio, let's hear it for George the Terminator Linberger!
Crowds are excited as we are about to start Butterbean versus Linberger 2. It's again, the first fight lasted 19 seconds. Let me say, these fighters have no love lost for each other. They almost got into a brawl at the weigh-ins for their first fight back in Las Vegas, Nevada in March of 2000. And in fact, Butterbean commented after he knocked out Linberger, "Don't piss the fat man off." This time Butterbean got upset again at Linberger when Linberger was late for the weigh-in. As I mentioned, there's no love lost between these two. Butterbean looks intent on doing some damage as he did in the first fight. Linberger's gonna wanna keep some distance.
George has been working, reviewing the tapes of the Larry Holmes fight with Butterbean, perfecting that jab. His game plan is to go in there and box and use that jab all 4 rounds. So we'll see what happens.
This is kind of a funny thing to say considering it's a Linberger fight, but there's been concerns about Butterbean's conditioning. Excuse me, a Butterbean fight. There's concerns over Butterbean's conditioning. When Butterbean knocked out Linberger, it was kind of during his peak. It was right about the time he knocked out Peter McNeely. It was when he knocked out an undefeated fighter named Russell Chastain. It was right when he was at his best. He won the IBA title. He weighed in for his first fight against Linberger at 330 pounds. This fight, he weighed 376 3/4 pounds. Linberger is in some of the, probably the best shape of his career at 255. Although Linberger does look a little bit dry coming into the ring here.
Already this fight has gone about a minute and a half longer than their first fight. George is using the jab well. Butterbean's very tentative. I've never seen him start this slow. I'm talking about Butterbean.
Well, Butterbean may be expecting to knock out George as soon as he lands that big power shot. He may be looking for that big power shot, but you know, I gotta say, that jab is pretty effective. There's a little bit of redness under the left eye of Butterbean already.
Absolutely, there's a mouse, quite a big mouse under there. That left jab is finding a mark, and George crossed over a right hand that just missed. But George is in shape for this fight, and it means a lot to him. So far, he's executing his game plan to perfection.
Butterbean's coming in this fight off a loss to Kenny Craven. A lot of people point to that fight. Actually, he's lost 2 straight fights to Kenny Craven, a fighter he knocked out twice in his career. A lot of people are pointing to those fights as an indication that Butterbean's heart may not be in it like it had been in the late 90s and early in 2000 when he fought George Linberger. But his dislike for Linberger is real and palpable. That could make a difference here.
We don't know how much those K1 and mixed martial arts bouts have taken out of Butterbean either, David. But don't forget, Butterbean has that tremendous power, and George's chin is a little suspect, so don't go to the refrigerator, folks.
Linberger keeping up with the jab. Linberger is cut over the left eye. There is a cut over the left eye of George Linberger. That could play a big role here.
It could. George has Mike LaQuatra, veteran world-class cut man in his corner for this fight. So I'm sure Mike will take care of that cut, but George got caught with a right hand. He may have been wobbled a little bit at the end.
Come on, George!
And we'll see if George can press the attack again and keep that jab working.
Matchmaker Don Elbaum was involved in the show. As you mentioned, Don has a long history with Akron, Ohio. And he has also a history with both Butterbean and George Linberger. Don Elbaum has said that he will offer Mike Tyson $2.5 million to fight George Linberger, to come out of retirement and fight George Linberger if he wins this fight. Now, there's no telling if that Mike Tyson would accept that offer, but that is something that George Linberger has been fighting for some time now. He's been trying to get that fight with Mike Tyson. And ironically enough, so has Butterbean. Both of these fighters would like to get in with Mike Tyson.
That jab is working, and Butterbean's doing a lot of posing, but George is hitting with about 6 straight left jabs. George's cut has remained closed. The mouse under Butterbean's eye is swelling shut.
I don't think the mouse is quite that too bad just yet, but the cut doesn't look like it's bleeding right now too badly. There's a little trickle of blood, but Butterbean is not active enough to exploit it, and he's caught Linberger with the right hand. I think he might have hurt Linberger a little bit. Linberger smiles, indicating it didn't hurt him, but usually that means it did.
There was some bad blood between these two, David, before their first fight. Butterbean felt George made a disparaging remark before the fight. They really don't like each other too much now. It was very tense at the press conferences, and an interesting fight here. George still continues to press that jab. Butterbean is loading up, trying to find a place for that right hand, but not doing much else.
And George has said that he feels that any boxing expert, anybody who knows boxing, knows the first loss was a fluke. Well, you know what? I don't think most boxing experts concur with that. A lot of them do, but a lot of them don't, and he needs a big win here to prove that that fight was a fluke. He's never been able to completely live down his 19-second loss to Butterbean.
George wants to move to that next echelon of boxing. He's wildly popular here, but a win over Butterbean would definitely catapult into some bigger, better fights. And there was a nice right hand by Butterbean right on the chin. Linberger seemed to shake it off, and he's going to look to establish his jab again.
Well, Butterbean's power is well known. I mean, a lot of people criticize him. He has 71 wins. Most of them are against very limited opponents. Right hand there landed against Linberger again. But, Butterbean has about 6 or 7 wins over fighters who are pretty darn good. Peter McNeely, George Linberger, Marcus Rody. You wouldn't call them great fighters by any means, but they're recognizable journeymen. Fighters who usually don't get beat unless they fight the top guys. And he's beaten them.